Hello YouTube, it's me Ian, and today I'm going to be talking about the 2016 elections, more specifically control of the US Senate. Now I know that 2016 there's going to be the presidential race, which is going to be important, but don't worry, we're going to get to that in another video. But today we're going to be talking about control of the US Senate. Now before we talk about the future, let's go back into the past to 2014. This was the result of the 2014 midterms, a Senate gain of 9 for the Republicans, and therefore they regained the majority. They easily won states in West Virginia, Louisiana, Arkansas, Iowa, South Dakota, Montana, Colorado, and they nearly won in Alaska and North Carolina. Ultimately, Colorado turned out to be close, but when it was called, it wasn't that close. So we're gonna consider it. It was a clean sweep in Colorado. And it was really a clean sweep for the Republicans in the Senate and the House and the governorships. So 2014 was a very traumatic loss for the Democrats. Now, Democrats are hoping that they can make a comeback in the 2016 elections. Now, this is where control of the U.S. Senate stands. 54 Republicans, 44 Democrats, and 2 independents that tend to caucus for the Democrats. So that's really a 54-46 majority. Now, Democrats, with their caucus, and I'm putting that in quotation marks. This is just, yeah, I've been getting that message from a couple in the last video also like that. But anyways, yeah, for the Democrats in their caucus of independents, again, that's in quotations, they need a net gain of 5. So, or 4 if they win the White House. 4, it would put it at 50-50, so they could then hypothetically have control. If the next president of the United States is another Democrat, then the vice president, who will certainly be a Democrat, will be the tie-breaking vote and constantly hand over control of the Senate to the Democrats. But really, to officially gain control with the caucus, they need 5 to regain control. Now, to officially regain control of the yeah, and I'm putting this in, also in officially, Democrats would need a net gain of 7. Now, this is just without the independents. To officially gain control, in my eyes, they need 7. Jesus, that's keeping that thing. Anyways, to officially gain control of the Senate, they need to get a net gain of 7, but they could do with 5 or 5. Yeah. But without the independents, they could do with 7. So, anyways, depending on how the presidential election goes, which will have a key impact in this, they can really get away with control with gaining with a net gain of 4 to 7. So it really doesn't matter. But well, it does matter, but it doesn't matter what their gain is for that to regain control. If they regain control, they regain control. So how is the 2016 map going? Well, let's go back to the 2014 map. If you could see, the 2014 election was held on very red turf. Alaska being a Republican state, Montana, South Dakota, West Virginia, North Carolina, Arkansas, Louisiana. Those are Republican turf. That's Republican turf. Colorado and Iowa are more Democratic turf, really. And Republicans won all the states that Mitt Romney won in 2012, and they won 2 states that were won by Obama last time. In fact, Obama won these states twice, and he won North Carolina once, 2008. So, how is the 2016 map going? Well, it's kind of a reversed thing. It is mostly now on blue territory. This is the script from 2014 is basically reversed in 2016. Republicans have to defend 24 seats to the Democrats' 10. And in 2014, Democrats need to defend 21, Republicans need to defend 50. So Republicans are actually defending more seats than Democrats are, and Democrats are defending less seats. Now, right now, there's only 1 retirement. It's Barbara Boxer from California. There isn't really expected to be any retirements, unless, of course, if Marco Rubio runs for president. Yeah. So this is a lot of red. This is overwhelmingly red, and this is the same class from the 2010 midterms, which was a very good year for Republicans also, and from 2004 when Bush won re-election. So this is so really the Republicans are really overextended here. Now, how are the ratings for this? Again, it's very, very early, but this is what I have an idea of. This is my election site, Ultra Elections. You can check it out. The link will be in the description below. So Republicans are kind of on thin ice here. Now, based on all these ratings, as you can see right here, safe, likely, toss-up, lean, likely, safe, no election. Right now, the Republicans hold a 51-44 edge over the Democrats. So, basically, Republicans, if with this map, Republicans would hypothetically hold the Senate barely with 5 toss-ups, and 3 of them, their own seats being toss-ups. So here are the close races. We'll talk about the toss-up first. Nevada, which is Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid. He had to face a challenge in 2010 from the Tea Party. He would have lost, in fact, if the Republicans didn't run Sharon Angle. Angle just turned out to be a bad candidate, ran a bad campaign, and Reid relatively easily won. So Reid's up for re-election. His approval ratings are pretty low, so he is very vulnerable. But Republicans are hoping that they can get the governor of the state, Brian Sandoval, who's a Republican, to run against Reid, but that's not likely. So Republicans have to find someone else, really. Now, Sandoval hasn't declined or anything, but it's common knowledge that he probably won't run. Next, Colorado, where Senator Michael Bennet, he's a one-termer. He was appointed in 2010, and he faced a Tea Party challenger named Ken Buck. Bennett barely won. He only won by 2 points. And Buck could have won if he didn't self-implode. I guess most Tea Party challengers really do. So if Democrats really want to regain control, they have to defend those 2 seats, and that's not going to be a cakewalk. Right now, Reid is facing a challenge from a guy named Bob Beers, who's a former, I think he's a former Las Vegas county councilman, and I think he was a state senator also. And I think he was a nominee for governor in 2006, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. And Colorado, Michael Bennet is right now facing a challenger from El Paso County Commissioner Daryl Glenn. Now, if Glenn wins, he could be the first black senator elected from Colorado, and that's kind of huge. So, and with the Republicans trying to rebrand themselves, yeah, my party likes to rebrand itself. Yeah, anyways, yeah. So next, now the other 3. These are seats held by Republican incumbents who are one-termers. They're freshmen. So it's in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Pennsylvania. Wisconsin, it's Ron Johnson. Illinois, it's Mark Kirk. And Pennsylvania, it's Pat Toomey. Now, they're all very vulnerable, but none of them are really facing a distinctive challenger yet, except Pennsylvania, where it's looking like it's going to be a Pat Toomey versus Joe Sistak rematch. They went up against each other in 2010, and Toomey barely won by 2 points. So, and 2010 was a midterm year. 2016 is going to be a presidential year, and presidential year Democrats tend to do better, so to speak. So Sistak could have an advantage, but again, Toomey is fairly popular in Pennsylvania, to my knowledge. And so is Kirk in Illinois. He could be the cycle's Mark Begich. He runs a smart campaign, but he still loses because Illinois is a very Democratic. It's a very blue state, and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are fairly blue, but Illinois is more blue than the 3. Now, Kirk could really face a serious challenger, but again, the Democratic primary is expected to be pretty wild and messy. Wisconsin Democrats would love to see a Feingold Johnson rematch from Johnson, who was elected to the Senate in 2010, beat Russ Feingold. He's the former senator who held that seat for a while. Johnson won by 4, but Johnson's approval ratings are low, so Feingold may jump back in. Now, if it's a good year for Democrats, I expect one of these 3 toss-ups to fall. Now, it's really hard to say who's the most vulnerable out of these 3, but if I were to say, it would probably be Johnson, perhaps, or I would say it's probably Johnson, and it's closely followed by Kirk and Toomey. Toomey may be in the best position, these 3, really, but yeah, so again, it's really early, but yeah, but it's only February 2015. The election's basically a year from now, so a year plus, really. So yeah. Anyways, so on to the next batch for the Republicans. Now, these are the lean Republican reigning states. That's Arizona. Sorry about that. Anyways, as I was saying, the leaning Republican states are Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, and New Hampshire. Now, yeah, so let's just talk about these races. Let's start with Arizona because I think that's going to be the most fascinating race of 2016. Besides the presidential, of course. You see, you have John McCain, who ran in 2008. He was the 2008 presidential nominee for the Republicans. He lost. Then he ran in 2010. He faced a primary challenge from the Tea Party. He easily won. And 6 years later, almost 6 years later, he's facing massive disapproval ratings from all sides of the political spectrum. He's facing the Tea Party challenge. Now, he hasn't announced if he's running. No one's in yet, but there is speculation that members of the Arizona congressional delegation will run against McCain. So, yeah. Now, if the Democrats can put up the right kind of candidate, because Arizona has a tendency to elect Democrats every now and then. Now, I think it's a done deal if Democrats nominate former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, who was wounded in the shooting. Now, if Democrats run her, I think McCain's going to have a serious challenge in this rate, and Arizona automatically goes to a toss-up. So, yeah, all the leading Republican states are very, they're on the verge of becoming toss-ups. So, yeah, I just want to make a note there. So, that's the Arizona race. So, if McCain can somehow survive a primary challenge, and his approval ratings with Republicans are pretty bad, if he manages to do that, well, he would have to survive a very tough re-election race. Now, on to Florida, which is my original home state. Marco Rubio is thinking about running for president. He hasn't decided yet, but the main reason this is leaning R is because if Rubio decides to run for president, this probably will go to a toss-up because there's going to be a lot of open spots for it because Rubio's kind of young. So, yeah, so a lot of members of Florida's political system may say, ooh, open Tennessee, I'll take it. And Democrats would love to see the new Congresswoman Gwen Graham from Florida 6 to run, but I don't think she'll run because she's just going to enjoy her new seat. And there's also Congressman Pat Murphy, who is thinking about running from some sources that I saw. So he might run, but yeah, he's a potential candidate. Now, he won in 2014, which was a really bad year for Democrats in Florida, especially. He won his race, he won his district, which which Republicans have a +2 or 3 or 4 advantage. I think it's a +3 advantage in the district. He won by 19 points. He won easily in very red turf. So yeah, that's something. But so yeah. Now, if Rubio does run, his approval ratings are a bit mixed. They're on a slightly negative spread. So, if Rubio runs, this might stay lean Republican, but I don't know. So next, let's go on to North Carolina, where there was another interesting Senate race that happened in the 2014 midterms, which was Kay Hagan versus Thom Tillis. Tillis ultimately won, which kind of surprised me a bit. I actually think he could do it, but I knew that if it was going to be a good night for Republicans, they'd either win North Carolina or New Hampshire, or both. And they won North Carolina, but they didn't win New Hampshire, unfortunately, so, yeah. Now, why am I talking about the 2014 race? Well, because Kay Hagan is considered a potential candidate to run again. So, yeah, I mean, now granted, she's going she's being I don't know, she's going to be working at Harvard, so I don't know if she's going to run. I doubt that from that move she'll run, but anyways, if she runs, that probably goes to a toss because Burr's approval ratings are also low in North Carolina, and he's not well defined. I mean, his ratings are like his ratings are kind of like in the 30s, but so is his disapproval ratings because he's not well known. So yeah, but North Carolina would be another interesting race to watch again. And there's also going to be a governor's race in North Carolina. And North Carolina's a very competitive presidential race now. It's a competitive swing state now. Now, here's the thing with North Carolina. It's a Republican state, but Republicans have to work for it now. I mean, it was generally during the Bush era, it was assumed that, it just solidly goes the Republicans' way. It still goes the Republicans' way, but it's not as heavily as it did in recent years. I mean, Tillis only won by 2, and he got elected with less than 50%. So, yeah, he won by a thin majority. Next in Ohio. Now, originally this was likely Republican, but I moved it to lean Republican. My my January update, sorry, for my website, because the former governor of Ohio, Ted Strickland, who was voted out in 2010 against John Kasich, Ted Strickland may run for Senate, according to some sources that to news articles and stuff like that. So Strickland is a top-tier contender. Why? Because, I mean, granted, he was pretty unpopular in Ohio, and he only lost by 2 in a very good Republican year. And also, I mean, Democrats have a very thin bench because Republicans have been just kicking the Democrats over and over again in Ohio. So they don't really have much of a bench to run. And so this is why Ohio could become a very good race to watch. And also, Ohio's the seat of the presidential. Ohio's considered to be the key to the presidential election. So that would be interesting. Very interesting to watch. Next, we'll go up to New Hampshire, where Senator Kelly Ayotte, who was elected in the landslide 2010, she easily won her seat. Now she is facing a potential Tea Party challenge, and I'll talk about the Tea Party in a little bit. And she's also facing a competitive race. Now, New Hampshire just had a competitive race as well in 2014, with Shaheen versus Scott Brown. Shaheen won that race by 2. And so Democrats are hoping that the governor of the state, Maggie Hassan, who won by 5 in 2014, that she runs. Now, there's no indication that she's going to run for Senate. She's probably going to seek re-election to the governor's race, to her governor's seat. But if Hassan runs, she will. This probably goes to a toss-up. So you could understand that all 1, 2, 3, 4, all 5 of these leaning Republican states are on really thin ice, really. And yeah. So now onto the likely Republican seats in Kansas, Iowa, Kentucky, and Georgia. Kansas, the only reason it's likely Republicans because, first off, in 2014 there was a very competitive Senate race that turned out not to be that close when Pat Roberts won by 11 points against an independent Greg Orman. And Greg Orman might run again, not sure, but Jerry Moran is a lot more popular than Pat Roberts was. Pat Roberts was pretty unpopular, and Moran's ratings aren't that great, but I think they're on a positive spread. He's a lot more popular back home in Kansas, to my knowledge. So he'll be certainly in a better spot than Roberts was, but then again, you can't be sure. Yeah, and also Alaska. Yeah, we'll jump over to Alaska. Lisa Murkowski was primary in 2010, but she came back and won as a write-in candidate, so that was a pretty good feat for her. And the reason she was primary is because the Tea Party argued that she wasn't conservative enough. Now, same thing could happen again in 2016. And also, partially, Democrats never really had a chance in Alaska in 2010 because they didn't put up that brave a candidate. Now, they might have a good candidate in 2016 because former Senator Mark Begich, who barely lost his seat to Dan Sullivan, he only lost by 3, could run again. Now, Begich didn't rule out running again, but I mean, I don't know if he will run, but he could also run for the House, which would be an unusual move in my opinion, considering, you were just in the Senate for 6 years. Why would you want to go to the House now? That wouldn't really make sense. But if Begich runs, this could be a race to watch, certainly. Yeah, and we already did Kansas, so let's go to Iowa, which was the kind of the majority maker along with North Carolina for the Republicans. Now, in Iowa, there was a very close race between Congressman Bruce Braley, who is a Harkin acolyte, very liberal, and versus State Senator Joni Ernst, who is very conservative. Well, you can debate how conservative she really is, but yeah, so she ended up winning that very close contest by 9 points, and pretty impressive. She just broke the race completely and just took it by storm. So yeah, she could so now the Republican incumbent is Chuck Grassley, who is seeking re-election. He is facing a very low tier opposition candidate from the other side. The Democrats are putting up a state senator who tried running for governor, but he quit the race. His name was Bob Cross. Yeah, now Cross probably doesn't have that much of a chance against Grassley because Grassley's very popular now, and considering he won his last race in 2010 by with 60+%, and he always had easy re-elections, I don't even in presidential years also. There doesn't seem to be much of a reason that he's in danger. This is kind of on the board between likely and safe Republican. So, yeah. Now on to Kentucky, where there was also a competitive race for Senate there in 2014, but it turned out to be not that close. Mitch McConnell in 2014 won against Allison Mudrick and Grimes, and now 2 years later, Rand Paul, who's seriously considering a run for president, he could have to retire his seat because Kentucky law states he cannot seek 2 offices at the same time. Now, if Paul leaves the Senate, then I think there would be a competitive race, because Kentucky on the national level is very Republican. But it's not as Republican as people can give it credit for. I mean, out of the statewide offices, only one of them is Republican. So, yeah, now, again, that could change with the 2015 elections, which is on my site also. It's, if I can find it. Yeah, there it is, right in front of my face. Yeah, it's right there if you want to check it out. I might make a video on it another time, but, yeah, so if Paul doesn't leave, then this race will probably be safe, because he's pretty popular in Kentucky, unlike Mitch McConnell, who's unpopular, and Mitch McConnell's the new majority leader. Now, on to Georgia. Now, Johnny Isakson is seeking re-election. Now, there was also a competitive race for this in 2014, with Saxby Chambliss retiring, and Purdue ended up being Michelle Nunn. Now, Nunn could run again, as well as Jason Carter, who lost a race for governor that year as well, to Governor Nathan Deal. Now, Carter could run for Senate, I don't know. But, I mean, the Democrats do have a decent bench, but yeah. Yeah, but, I mean, Democrats say, oh, this is turning blue, and Republicans won both those races by 8 points. Doesn't seem like it's trending blue to me. So, at least not yet. So that's it. That's all the likely Republican races. Now, the safe Republican races are Utah, Idaho, North and South Dakota, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, South Carolina, and Indiana. Those races are not expected to be competitive, at this point at least. Now, on to the Democratic side. Now, there's only one likely Democratic race, which is Washington. And the only reason is because Pat Murray in 2010 had a very close race against State Senator and the 2004 gubernatorial nominee, Dino Rossi. She barely came out of that. I mean, even though she ended up winning by 5 points or something like that. I don't know. But it was a close race. And Republicans don't really have much of a bench there because there's been generations of losses there. So Murray, in my opinion, would probably make it back to Washington with or without a significant Republican challenge. And the state Democrat seats are obviously Oregon, with Ron Wyden, who's very popular. He'll run again. Barbara Boxer's seat will actually be one to watch in California because she's retiring. And people think, oh, this is going to be competitive. I don't think it's going to be competitive. It's California. I mean, so a miracle would have to happen in order for this race to be in play. And obviously there's Hawaii, Maryland, my home state, New York, Vermont, and Connecticut. So, yeah, those races are not expected to be competitive, although I was thinking, could Connecticut become competitive with Richard Blumenthal running for re-election? I mean, I don't think Blumenthal is in much danger, and I think his approval ratings are good, so, I mean, there's not much of a reason for Connecticut to become competitive, at least at this stage. Now, the Republicans do have another obstacle, besides their traditional rivals with Democrats. They have a problem within. Let's go over to the GOP Civil War Continues page on the site. Now, 2014 wasn't a good year for the Tea Party, really. I mean, most of their candidates in Senate races lost. Now, granted, they had 8 targets. Well, now they have 15, I'd say, if I'm counting right. Yeah, 15. And there are 16, and the establishment didn't really have a chance to go to offense on the Senate, but how they did with Senator Mike Lee in Utah. He beat Bob Bennett in the primary. It was a convention, really, and Bennett finished in 3rd, and Lee ended up winning the race and the primary. So, So Lee's approved ranks have been down since the shutdown, but from my understanding, they've rebounded ever since. So it'd be interesting to see if the establishment can put up a fight against Lee, but again, they might not want to because again they have a very competitive Senate map. And there's obviously John McCain, Arizona, very unpopular, and he's probably the most vulnerable to be primaried as well because he's so unpopular with conservatives. And he will face a primary challenge. Just mark my words, if he runs, he will face a primary challenge. I'm not saying that because I want him to be primary challenge or anything, but I just know it's going to happen. There's also Lisa Murkowski, who lost the primary in 2010, but came back and won. She could also face another primary challenge. Even though she won, yeah, but she's just showing that she's vulnerable in the primary, and it was an upset. Keep in mind, also, polls showed her that she's gonna win, but polling in Alaska is very hard to do, and especially in 2014, where there's several polls that show, Mark Begich is ahead. Yeah, that turned out to be a bunch of BS, especially by Rasmussen and other Begich internal polls. So yeah, Murkowski's probably the second most vulnerable because, again, she lost in 2010. Then there's John Thune, who's a big member of the Republican leadership team in the Senate. That's kind of a no-no for the Tea Party. So Thune might get primaried. Kansas, Jerry Moran. He kind of played a key behind-the-scenes role in defeating Tea Party candidates, so the Tea Party might come after him next. Roy Blunt in Missouri, he is a member of the GOP leadership team that might not sit well with conservatives and the Tea Party. In Arkansas, John Bozeman. I had to actually think about this one. Could Bozeman really be targeted? And I just looked up his conservative ratings, and I saw that they're relatively low. So the Tea Party might want someone more conservative in there. Illinois, where there's been talk that even though Kirk is going to face a hell of a re-election run, he might also face a primary challenge. And there's a former congressman, Joe Walsh, who is just scum, in my opinion, for insulting someone's war record, really, who served he insulted his opponent in 2012, Tammy Duckworth, for, her war record, and she served our country honorably, so Joe Walsh is scum. But yeah. Anyways, he said, Kirk should be primaried. And that's really good if Republicans want to keep that seat. So, yeah, and Kirk is also kind of... well, here's the thing. Kirk is a bit of a liberal Republican, I'm not going to lie, but he kind of has to be. You can't blame him. It's Illinois, for crying out loud. The Democrats have an 8-point advantage. So, yeah, and this is Obama's home state, keep in mind, Illinois. And Kirk won Obama's Senate seat because Obama had to give up his seat, and then there's a guy appointed to the seat. The appointee didn't want to run, so Kirk, who was a congressman at the time, just won in a very good year for Republicans. Dan Coates also, his conservative score ranks aren't that high, so Tea Party might want someone more conservative in there. I'm just quoting what they'd probably say. In Ohio, Rob Portman. Portman has shifted his stance on social issues, so the Tea Party isn't like that, so they may primary challenge him for that. Or they might not, but they're probably not going to support him. And Pennsylvania, there's Pat Toomey, who was a former congressman, but then he became a senator. He was also the former president for the Club for Growth, which is a bit of a Tea Party organization. Now, Toomey has tried to moderate himself, and he sponsored a bill. Well, he made a bill with Joe Manchin of West Virginia, a Democrat, and which was known as the Manchin-Toomey gun bill. Now, that didn't sit well with conservatives, so they may try to launch a primary challenge for that. In New Hampshire, Kelly Ayotte, also a moderate Republican. Tea Party might want someone more conservative in there. North Carolina, Richard Burr is kind of a low-profile kind of guy. Tea Party might argue that you don't stand up to Obama enough, all that. Johnny Isakson, now, in Georgia, Isakson is running again. Now, he announced very early that he's going to run for re-election. That might just push out a lot of challengers, any potential challengers, rather, to against him. So he probably might not even face a challenge at all, but again, he's been there since 2004, so the Tea Party will probably say, you've been there too long, you're out, bye-bye, see ya. Now, that's 2 terms in the Senate, and a senator serves 6-year terms, so that's 12. So it's kind of like a while, but again, Isakson is also low profile, kind of, you if I say the name Johnny Isaacson, you'll probably be like, who's that? So, yeah, he could. Isaacson would probably be fine in the primary, though, because he has a massive war chest, so. And so does his colleague in Alabama, Richard Shelby. Richard Shelby's probably the safest among all of these. Because, I mean, he has a very big war chest, and he's very popular back home. And, yeah, now, again, he is sort of low profile, so Tea Party says, oh, Alabama, it's a very conservative state, we should have someone stepping up to Obama more, and all that, so. Yeah, and then there's Florida, where's Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio went to the left of his party on immigration reform, and you may have heard it if you're a political junkie, how Rubio did that. Conservatives may want to get a little backlash about that. Now, conservatives and Tea Party people helped Rubio win, and Rubio was considered to be a Tea Party guy at the time, but Rubio went to the left on immigration. Yeah, so he went, so Rubio could face a primary challenge now. Now, the Tea Party tried to primary 8 incumbents in 2014, which was in Kentucky with Mitch McConnell, Lamar Alexander, Tennessee, Thad Cochran in Mississippi, Pat Roberts in Kansas. Well, I have to really remember all from 2014, wow. But, yeah, let's see. John Cornyn in Texas. Yeah, well, 2014 was a bit of a very exhausting year, so, yeah. But anyways, they tried the primary 8 people, and they didn't win any of the races. I mean, actually, I believe I have... do I actually? Well, this is a bit embarrassing, but, yeah, I know that, yeah, they tried primarying John Cornyn in Texas, Pat Roberts in Kansas, Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, Lamar Alexander in Tennessee, Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. Okay, memory came back, yippee. And, yeah. Yeah, so, again, they tried, and they failed, but now they have more targets, so, in theory, the establishment may be a little bit more stretched down the Tea Party, but the Tea Party now has to defend a guy that they love and is very close and near and dear to their heart. So, again, it really depends on how they are going to do this, if they're going to seriously, if the establishment's really going to challenge Lee. My thinking is they might. But, I mean, I think they're more likely to challenge Cruz in 2018, but that's a theory for another time, but, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's all I have, for you guys. Leave your comments and thoughts, and leave your thoughts in the comments below, and, yeah, feel free to check out my site. It's still a bit of a work in progress. I mean, I did this in time for the 2014 midterm elections. I'm working on 2015 right now. So, yeah, so... Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next episode, where we'll probably talk about the presidential race, which will be getting a lot of attention. So, yeah, bye.